Okay, so because I cannot ever stick with one thing, we're gonna work on a bonsai today. Because why not? You know, that's what looked good, and so that's what I'm gonna do. I like to just mess around with whatever I feel like doing at the time. I mean, that probably shouldn't surprise you if you're watching this. Because you probably know something about me if you've watched any videos or you know anything about my personality in general. I tend to switch around hobbies and interests and whatever pretty often. That's just kind of my style. But like, I don't really think it's a bad thing. Like, I've written an article before about being, a jack of all trades versus, the whole saying, jack of all trades, master of none, whatever. But, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like you're limiting yourself unnecessarily if you decide, I'm going to do one thing. Like, it just, I don't know. And I understand the value, of course, of diving deep into something, and I do dive deep into things. It's just, I was going to say divin, really. Yeah. I've dove into, into a lot of things that, so I've definitely, like, I have more than the, inch deep, mile wide kind of scope of, knowledge of things, because that's the argument being, like, if you have only a, sorry, I had to turn off an alarm on my phone for a second there. If you have only a inch deep understanding of things, like, you don't really understand, like, you think you understand things, but you're, like, just barely scraping the surface of a lot of things. And, to some extent it's true of everyone, but I just think, I am able to commit to things and, get a pretty good understanding in it. I feel relatively confident that I am because, I don't know, like, it's one of the few things about myself that I'm confident in, that I am capable of, developing a pretty good understanding of something just by teaching myself, or, well, not even necessarily just teaching myself, but, things that I don't necessarily have a formal education in, I should say. Like, for instance, quilting, I feel like I've taught myself how to do that pretty well. I mean, I didn't completely teach myself, but it's always been a hobby rather than, like, an academic subject I studied in school, which I did coincidentally study it in school at first, which was amazing. But I feel like I'm not making a lot of sense today. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit scattered. But yeah. So anyway, you'll never find me, getting down on people who have a lot of varied interests and don't tend to stick with things, because I think that's the way that some people operate, and I'm one of those people. And I just think that that's a really valid way to go about learning stuff in the world. And I do think it's really important to continually challenge yourself and find new things to learn. And I don't know, I just feel like I would feel stagnant if I had, just one or two hobbies and I never branched out and I never had to learn something new. I feel like it wouldn't be very exciting. Or even the video games I play, like, I have a hard time, like, I'm either 100% committed and I get really into a game and I have, like, hundreds of hours sunk into it, or, I barely play it, or I don't even start playing it because it's too intimidating to get started. And that's the kind of thing, like, I do regret, because, like, specifically on my Steam here, I probably have easily, like, 100 games I've never even played. And I'm sure they're all great. And someday, if I can motivate myself to start playing them, I would enjoy them. But I haven't yet. So I don't know. I'm kind of distracted by shiny new things, I think, sometimes. So it's hard for me to go back and be like, oh, this is an old game I bought so long ago, but I'm going to play it now. Like, I really enjoy it when a game has, a new update or something, and the devs come out and they start being really active and communicating with the community, and that helps kind of spur my interest, I think. Like a good example of that was with House Flipper. House Flipper was almost, I feel like, stagnating for a while. Like it had a fan base, but I think it was relatively small because they didn't release new content for a really long time. And then I think there was a little bit of a shift when they started supporting the workshop, and letting people contribute their own furniture and whatever, because that really, I think, ignited the community in a way that hadn't been before. Because it's a lot different when you're able to get more involved in the game and making your own stuff to put in your own houses. Like, that's really a cool concept. And I'm so, glad that they did that. They decided to invest the time and energy into making that work, because I think it really helped to keep the game alive. Because after that, it seems like they started doing more DLC and they started communicating more with fans, and I don't know. I could be remembering it wrong too, but it seems like that was a good move on their part, and it kind of changed things a little bit. House Flipper, coincidentally, is my most played game in my Steam library. I don't know what that says about me, but I enjoy House Flipper, I guess. That it definitely says that. It's also a game that you can kind of start over a lot, which I enjoy, because you can... Oh, here it is, that one last one. You can start over building a new... Or not really building, but redoing an entire new house. As soon as you get bored, you can just, start a different thing. And they keep releasing more content, and there's more and more stuff on the workshop every single day. So I like to just go on there and kind of browse what they have, and then I get excited about what kind of rooms I could make. And it is really... House Flipper is a really great game. I feel like I talk about it pretty often, but part of it is, I see it on my recently played games, every time I log into Steam. So, this, for instance, is off Steam, this Coloring Game 4. And so I just saw it. I just saw the title, and I was just thinking about, maybe I could play House Flipper. Honestly, the main reason I don't play it more is because it takes a really long time to load up, and I think it's because I have so many mods from the workshop. I run into the same exact thing with Rimworld. I love Rimworld, but it takes forever to load. It's probably 15 minutes to load up, because I just have it so overloaded with mods. I just need someone to hold my hand and be like, Allison, you don't need this mod. I'm going to remove it from your list. I'm just going to do it for you, because you obviously can't do it yourself. And just delete some of my mods so that I can have a manageable loading time and actually play the game, because it's bad. I have never finished a file on Rimworld. I've played it. It's another one that I have hundreds of hours into, but every time I play it, I pretty much start a new file. So I've never won the game. It's just kind of ridiculous, because, I feel like people play and have done several playthroughs in that time. Not me. I didn't expect this picture to be fall oriented like this. This looks like it's, September, October in the land of this pixel art. I was kind of hoping it'd be green, because so right now I'm recording this in, we're getting into late October, I guess. Well, not really late. It's October 21st today. I don't know if I should tell you that. I don't know how long I'm going to take to post this, but anyway, I'll just go for it. It's October 21st, 2021. So it's the change of seasons is upon us, is what I was trying to say in that very long-winded digression. And so I guess in my head I was thinking, it's a nice bonsai. They're always green and cheerful. And it's actually yellow, and it looks like it's dying a little bit. It's a little bit depressing, but it's okay. It's just doing its best. The life cycle continues, right? But yeah, when I look out my window, almost all the trees are bare at this point, and I think it's really cold today. I'm just checking the weather, so I'm going to stop coloring for half a second, but weather. Oh, it's 46 degrees right now, but it was 34 earlier. And I think we hit 32 at one point. Which, you know, is ooh, it's the first freeze. And I made this joke last night. I'm like, did you guys know that water freezes at 32 degrees? And no one laughed, but, you know, I thought it was funny. So that's what's really important. Because I like to say, I don't know, I just think it's funny when people, like, say things that are really obvious. It's so obvious that no one would ever think to even say it or remark on it because it's like, yeah, we all know that. I think it's funny when people point that kind of thing out. I don't know. It's a weird sense of humor that I have, but that's where we're at. But you know, what I was just thinking. So I'm learning about DBT right now, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. Just kind of a mouthful, but I just said it really fast, so I hope you got it. But I was just thinking what I was just saying there about it being weird, like a weird sense of humor or whatever. Like, that's even a judgment. And part of what you do in DBT is notice when you're making self-judgments like that and, you know, try to turn it around. Like, what's a more balanced way of thinking about it? It's like, well, it might not be a typical sense of humor. That doesn't mean I need to, like, put myself down for it. I mean, I wasn't really putting myself down for it, but it's just an example of the smallest things you say to yourself, like, you hear that. You know what I mean? Like, in my brain somewhere, I registered, oh, I'm just weird, you know? And that's something that I've held on to as an idea for so long, and it's one of those things that every once in a while you think about it, and when you're really conscious of the kinds of things you tell yourself every day, it's like, hey, like, maybe I shouldn't say that kind of thing. Even to myself. Sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I feel like I clear my throat when I'm on this thing all the time. I know that it's kind of loud. And I try to kind of move away from the mic a little bit when I do it, but I do actually clear my throat relatively often compared to most people. But again, I'm not going to judge myself about it. But you know, it's one of those things, if you have not practiced that kind of thinking about your thinking, about, you know, identifying judgments and working on arguing with them, like, it sounds kind of hokey. It sounds like there's no way I could do that, you know. It sounds fake and it's whatever, but honestly, like, it does work, and it just takes some time. It takes some working on it and just trying to figure out, like, how can I argue with this? And a lot of it, what works for me is, like, how would I describe this if it was not me? You know, like, how could I, because I think that we always try to be more understanding when it's like a friend or something. Like, if my friend laughed at something that I didn't think was funny, would I be like, oh, that's weird, they have a weird sense of humor? Like, no, I would be like, I would probably think it was funny that they thought it was funny. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's just a lighter approach to it. And to me, that really helps me get in the mindset of being more understanding of myself and more accepting of, you know, my differences and where I feel like I don't measure up to other people and stuff. Oh, I am almost done with this. I will have to take a small break, but I will be back very shortly. Just hold on. Oh, I'm almost done. Look. Oh. Okay, so one thing I did want to say is that I used to, when I get to the screen, it used to be animated. And what I can't tell is if I have some weird setting going on that, like, it's not working right, or if they just don't do that anymore. Like, in later updates, they just decided not to have it animated. Anyway, let me know if you know. But yeah, I'm going to take a quick break and then I'll come back. So let's just go back to the home screen and I'll be right back.